welcome to another edition of Community Conversations. I am Deputy First Selectman Nancy Haase, and we've got a full group with us today. I'm joined by Selectman Cheryl Cook and Selectman Paine, Selectman Sean Askham, and our special guest for our program today is Mr. Bob Hensley, former Selectman. Former Selectman. And you were kind enough to join us today because actually in one of your roles as a Selectman, you were the liaison to the Performing Arts Center board at the time, and that's evolved quite a bit, and there's a ton of exciting things going on, and we want to really let people in Simsbury and beyond know what's going on with the Performing Arts Center, not only from a concert perspective, but sort of what's going on with the facility. There's a lot of stuff going on, so we're hoping you're going to enlighten us.
I'll try. Only can be as enlightened as I am, which is, I'm limited in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to be here, and I hope I can answer any questions you might have and maybe shed some light for you and for everyone else on what's going on at the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah. Well, timing is such, and I know the program may not air, will air after, but tomorrow night is a big event to kick off, and
yes.
So maybe you can tell folks why you guys are pulling that all together and
Okay.
what you hope to accomplish out of that, and then where you're going from there.
Okay. So I'm just going to freelance here a little
Yes.
bit, unaccustomed as I am to doing that. So as you and as everyone else might know, the Performing Arts Center board was an appointed board which I chaired for the last 2 years and reported to the town of Simsbury through the first selectman and to the selectmen.
Yeah.
We had a mission, I'll call it, to over the last 2 years to make the facility profitable, which we did 2 years in a row, and to develop a relationship with a promoter, and we did. And we had some excellent concerts, and especially last year with Harry Connick.
And you did.
And it was great summer. And we had no rainouts, which is the best. Exactly. Very good, Sean. So the other goal that we had was to prepare for the transition of that board to a private facility and a privately run board.
Right.
So we worked all that last year through the year with the nonprofit. We created a 501c3,
Right.
which had a board of 4 people to get the 501c3 established. Our goal is to have 15 members on that board, which we now do have. So now the facility is run privately. We lease the facility, the Performing Arts Center, from the town of Simsbury, and we have a contract with them which fairly protects the town and also rewards the town for us renting it.
Yeah.
And we run it as a private facility with that 15-member board. I chair the development committee, and we have a number of committees, including finance and logistics and operations, that are headed by different members of the team. Some of the members are from the old board that was in the town board, and some are brand new. We tried to increase the footprint of the facility beyond just Simsbury.
Right.
So we have members on the board from Bloomfield, Granby, Avon, Farmington, all over the valley, so that we can increase what we call the footprint and expand the knowledge of the facility to everyone. So we kept the relationship we have with Premier Concerts, which was who the promotions were with last year. We have that facility. We worked on it all winter with them, and we have 3 booked very nice performers coming to our facility this summer.
Right.
And in one of those shows, there are actually 3 major performers going to be in one show. So we have Leonard Skinner, which is going to be here on June 13th, on Friday night, June 13th.
We'll put this all up for everyone to see.
So I have this.
You want me to hold
I have this very nice
I'll
poster.
hold this for you here.
We have a PDF. We have a PDF coming with it. So we have Leonard Skinner on Friday night, the 13th.
Yeah.
On Sunday, we have Willie Nelson, Allison Krauss, and Casey Musgraves, one of the brightest young country performers today.
Yeah.
So Casey Musgrave, Allison Krauss, and Willie Nelson in the same show. And then on August 15th, we have the Tedeschi Trucks Band, which is Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks. Derek Trucks, they're married. They have a great band. Everybody, when I say this, everybody in TV land's going to go crazy. But they're a great band. Derek Trucks was the lead guitarist with the Allman Brothers. Susan Tedeschi's a great instrumentalist and singer. and she and her husband formed this band, the Tedeschi Trucks Band, some years ago.
Yeah.
So those are 3 great concerts in addition to the wonderful Talcott Mountain Music Festival, which are
Right.
5 concerts put on by the Hartford Symphony. Of course, everyone, I think, knows that the Hartford Symphony and the Bushnell have now merged, and so the Bushnell is actually running the operations, I think, day to day.
Yep.
Back shop stuff, and the Hartford Symphony still has its board and still runs and is committed to all of the things that they have done in the past. Hopefully this is a good thing that's going on with the Bushnell and the Hartford Symphony, and we've been talking to them about what their plans are for the future too. So we have those things plus all of the other things. This coming weekend we have the River Run, which is sponsored by the Simsbury Granby Rotary, which is several thousand people that get together every spring and run for some unknown reason until they break a sweat, and then they celebrate by eating. I never have quite understood that. So anyway, all of those kinds of things, and we have 2 jazz festivals going on this summer, which we didn't have last year. All great things, and tomorrow night, which now all the way around to tomorrow night is our first annual kickoff of the Simsbury Performing Arts Center Incorporated's season. And we're going to do this every year, and it's a fundraising and an introduction to the community of what the season's going to be about, and the people from the symphony and Bushnell and the promoter. A lot of people are going to be there to talk tomorrow night. So it's a great
So that's
thing.
just the acronym difference for folks, is they're used to seeing PAC, the PAC board, and Sean,
Right.
you were the liaison when Bob left, and so now it's SimPAC, the Simsbury Meadows Performing Arts Center Committee.
Which is our official name.
Right.
Right.
So you guys have been
So
busy.
when people make out those checks,
exactly.
you want to make them out to SMPAC Incorporated. And those are tax deductible gifts, but
Exactly.
very important.
Yeah, and Nancy brought up a great point, being the liaison and taking over for Bob. Bob did a great job on the Selectmen side, and then we were really lucky to have you move over to chair the PAC board. It quite honestly a tough transition time.
Yeah.
You know, what were we going to be down there? What did we want to grow into? What did the town want to do? And you came in, Bob, and I think did a great job with the organization and setting the mission and the vision, and quite honestly making it one of the easiest votes I think we've ever had on the Board of Selectmen to transfer the managing of that asset to the 501c3 because of the work that you and the board did over the last few years.
Oh, thank you.
Perfecting
was-
processes too, which
Yeah.
was a large
Right.
part of
Right,
it,
right.
was really putting, getting the town and culture parks and
Right.
bringing all those sort of people
Coordinating those
together
groups
and
together.
working
Right.
in
You're making me blush.
But in all seriousness, I mean, getting to see how the sausage was made for the last 2 years. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's
guys. But it was wonderful
good
because
sausage.
it was an example of how great volunteers like yourself and others in this town can get something done when they put their mind to it.
I was going to say, the whole, like in most organizations, the thing that makes it rock is all the people.
Yeah.
And we have in town and now from out of town, we have some great people.
Yeah.
And it would be so unfair to try to even mention, 15 people, but there's just
I was
some
going to
key
say, do you want to name them all, or are you
Yeah.
afraid you're going to
I'd
forget
be
somebody?
afraid. So
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But some names do stick out. Dave Ryan is our chair now.
Dave
I was
Ryan.
just
That's
going to say
very,
that
very
because
important.
part of a lot of this great work has been such a bipartisan effort from
Yep.
so many people
Right.
in town, and Dave was one of those transitional folks who was
He's one of the
on the
original,
original,
yeah.
right, the original PAC board person, and now he's the chairman of the SimPAC.
So we have a great group and a lot of names that people will recognize. Tomorrow night we're going to be introducing all the board, and
So
we
you'll have
a,
to remember their names then.
I'll have to. Then I have a slide. I remember them. I just don't want to do it under pressure.
Yeah.
So somebody told me to never try to name a bunch of people in public. But we have a great group, and you just can't do this stuff. I'm telling you, you can't imagine. You said sausage. Like, people would not want to know how much work it was to do Harry Connick.
Yeah.
But they loved being there, and they loved
Oh,
it. But
yeah.
you wouldn't want to get behind there and try to see how that was made.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work. And so you have a lot of dedicated, unfunded people who commit incredible hours to just make this happen. And Tom Vincent's our manager now for the
Right.
third or fourth year in a row. So we have consistency there. The SimPAC hired him to be the manager so we would have seamless transition. We've done that for a couple of years now. It works very well. and that gives us the ability to work with the promoters all through the winter
Yeah.
instead of just in
So,
the spring.
and I know you're with us half of our program today,
Yeah.
so I don't want to keep you longer than you have to go because you've got to go sell tickets.
I
know.
do, I do.
Yeah. But can you just talk really briefly just about the facility, just so people are aware of what you guys are working towards?
So we have a number of goals, some of which are going to be announced tomorrow night. And it's like I mentioned it to somebody today. I said it's like being a kid in a candy store and you haven't been in a candy store for about 5 years. So like you want everything, or going shopping when you're hungry.
It's not penny
the
candy
worst thing
anymore.
in the world to do. So you buy the whole store out and all you wanted was a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. So it's like that because there's so many things we want to do. The town, as you know, has filed for a grant to try to help
Right.
build out the back of it.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to have drawings and architectural renderings of what phase 2 and phase 3 are of that facility, which a lot of people don't even know about.
Right, right.
The facility was built with all private money and a grant from the state way back when
Yeah.
what you see down there was created. And we would like to have our own ability to not have to, we want to reduce, I guess the best way to say it, we want to reduce the impact of costs to performers that come in or promoters that want to bring things in.
Yeah.
And we also have this, so I had somebody say, well, what will they say when I say, what do you think the number one concern we have with that facility is right now? What would you say? What do you think the number one, if you're going to be a promoter and invest a lot of money in a show down there, what would be your number one concern?
Well, I don't know how you
Don't be
separate, but I was
afraid.
going to say cost and weather, because
Weather.
Weather.
So
Yeah.
the weather, if we could take the weather out of the equation
Well-
for those first 3, inside the wall in theater style, we seat 2,880 people. So if we could take that weather out of it, and if you just dreamed a little bit, something like a retractable roof or something, even though it might be an incredible expense, it would make this facility something that no one else has in the area.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we, because the symphony loves being under the stars, our new logo is the
Yes.
Talcott Mountain
the
Tower
yeah.
with the
Right.
stars
Stars.
above, because you like to be under the stars. So if it's nice weather, you want the stars. But if it's raining, you want to
Show
be
must go
under
on.
a giant
we can
umbrella.
paint some stars on the bottom
Yeah.
of the
So
umbrella.
Yeah.
we have goals like that, and we obviously need sound towers. I mean, in the future, our own tables and chairs, so we don't have to rent and bring in that stuff.
And the trailers would go away because those other phases
Because
would be
we'd
built.
have green
Right.
rooms and
Improve the
dressing
site
rooms.
overall.
behind.
There's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
So it is a kid in a candy store a little bit, but we have some priorities that we want to set, and
Yeah.
tomorrow night is partly about that. We want to get people all over the valley involved in this. We're the second largest facility in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I mean, Comcast Xfinity is the biggest downtown,
Right.
and we're number 2 at 10,000.
But
So
it's such a nice size and such
perfect.
a great setting and
Right.
Great
and it's
town.
and it's a wonderful asset for us to have as a town. So I know you've got to run, so I just wanted to thank you for coming. And I didn't really introduce you appropriately to say, as you mentioned, you've been at this for years, because you and I was part of the original people
Right.
who raised that money for that first phase. So you've really been watching this
long time.
cultivate all along, and you've stayed at it, and we really appreciate it. And thanks for coming.
It's
and-
very exciting, and I'm so excited to be here. And I hope people will. We're going to have a brand new website in about a week. I've seen it. It's awesome. We're going to have all kinds of information that's going to be bouncing around. We have 15 very energized and energetic board members that are going to be out talking about this to people. So
Well, we'll
I
put
hope
your
people will
website
come
up
to
too,
us.
because you
Right.
probably we can get the URL from you.
Yep,
We'll put it
yep.
on the program, and people can go there and find out more. And we'll
You can buy tickets now.
right, and
You
we'll all
can buy
knock on
tickets.
good
Oh,
for
can
wood
buy
for
tickets.
good weather. And
if you don't mind, I just will
Yeah.
before I leave. And we've had some problems last year with this. So our official, there's 2 things actually, if I can do this quickly: the tickets and then the concessions. If I can just
Yes.
wrap that into
Yep.
a short. So the tickets, our official ticket provider is Ticketmaster for all of the outside concerts. For the symphony concerts, you can call our office here, or you can call the symphony directly and buy tickets. However you've done it in the past is what you'll be able to do in the future. And if you want to bring your own food and beverage in for the symphony concerts, you can certainly do that. And we may, because we have all the concessions down there now, we may sell some concessions, and we may sell beer and wine. If you didn't want to bring beer and wine in, we may do that. for the other concerts,
For these
for
concerts.
these concerts,
These concerts.
you can't bring food and beverage into the
Cannot.
concerts, and
Right.
that's a restriction that the promoters and the performers put on it. Plus, it's also part of the infrastructure of financials for us
Right.
and for the promoter.
Right.
Right.
And that's
So you can't
standard
do
with
that.
any concert that
That's
you would
standard
go to.
with any concert, but you need to check the website, and people need to learn to get in the habit of kind of checking to see, is this a BYOB or is this not a BYOB? We don't
Yeah.
want people upset by that.
Yeah.
Parking is free except for reserve parking. So if you park in reserve parking, it's $10, but you can park right behind the stage, and all the parking areas behind there are all
Right.
reserved. But free parking is available all over. And the last thing is what? What was I going to say? Tickets and
concessions.
and
I think you
concessions.
did.
I already
You
said
got
that.
it.
You did
So
Yeah.
at all the
You got it.
concerts, we'll have beer and wine and all kinds of vendors selling food of all kinds there. And this year, you won't have to buy those tickets. You just go pay the vendor. So if you want to buy a hamburger, you go pay the vendor for the hamburger and you go away. You don't have to buy a ticket and then go
Yeah.
Excellent.
to the vendor.
So what was a transition over the past, especially last year?
Yes.
Talcott Mountain Music Festival, HSO concerts can still be BYOB,
Just like they've always been.
just like they've always been. These concerts through Premier are No.
You can't bring beer. I mean, the main thing is you can't bring food or beverage into
beverage.
these concerts.
Yeah.
You can bring a blanket, you can bring other things, but
Yeah.
no food or beverage. Chairs if you're sitting on the lawn.
Yeah.
But there is security there. They won't allow you to do that, and we don't want anybody to be upset.
And
by
we'll
that.
include more information. We'll put that up on the
It'll be
screen
on the website.
too,
It'll be a part of
It's
it.
on
Yeah.
signs all around the concert. So,
Yeah.
but as we go through these transitions, people are just going to have to learn. But we're going to have a great season. There's so many wonderful things that have the potential of happening down there, and it really can be. I know EDC in town did some kind of a study, and I heard that they felt that the Performing Arts Center entertainment was a major portion of what could bring people to Simsbury.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that, and I know our board does.
Absolutely.
And so I think that we have a great chance to make this a special place and do it right. And it may take us a little time, but we're moving pretty
Moving
fast,
Yeah,
I
you're
think.
doing
and
all
very
right.
well in the right direction.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I feel good
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's
Well,
good.
Bob Hensley, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Bob.
much
Thank
for
you
coming.
very
so
much,
much,
Bob.
Bob.
I'm sorry I have
Thank
to
you.
run, but I
No,
appreciate
that's quite all right. Just don't
being
forget to
a part.
unplug
I
your
won't.
mic. Yeah, and we'll be back with the second half right after we say goodbye to Bob. So we're back for our second half of Community Conversations, and had a nice time talking to Bob about the Performing Arts Center. And he closed by saying what an asset that is for the town, and I think there's a lot of things that are assets to the town, and a lot of which we're supporting in our budget. And so I think it would be a good bit of information to bring people up to speed on all that's the latest that's been going on with the budget. We're just about to hit referendum date. That's easy to say. So it's been a long process, but
It has.
We're
It
at the
has.
end.
A lot of work.
yeah.
It was a ton of work, and it was tough in a lot of ways to figure out where, not so much where the dollars came from, but where you wanted to allocate them
Yeah.
and prioritize and everything else. And obviously, all we worked on was the Board of Selectmen budget. Separate budget is the Board of Ed's. But just, I was amazed how many moving pieces there were, and it was, in some ways, a lot of fun to put that together. It was also a challenge
Right.
to put
Yeah,
it
was
together.
challenged.
You know, it's exciting though is for the third year in a row for you and I. We had a
Yeah.
6-0 budget. All 6 selectmen supporting the
Supporting
budget
the
together.
budget. Yeah.
And it's an interesting process because the first selectman, puts forth her budget, and then we have to make some tough decisions. And there was some questions on where were our priorities and what did we want to fund. And I'm glad that all 6 of us came to, I think, a strong consensus, and we
Yeah.
preserved public safety.
I think so. too.
Fully funding the police department. I don't think
Correct.
anybody in this town would question us on doing.
Right.
And that's why the budget went up a little bit. And I, quite frankly, I think it had to because, again, of what we
did.
value for public safety in this town.
Right.
Well, and a lot of it is salaries and benefits and stuff that, is done by contract, and,
Right.
that those increases we have to honor, and the rest of it, we work really hard on to.
And I also give kudos to the town employees, both on the Board of Ed side
yeah.
and the
Right.
Selectmen side, who actually made an agreement to allow us to save some money.
Right.
That was huge
Yes,
to be
yes,
able to
the
do what we were able to do with the
medical
budget.
plans.
It really does take a lot of folks working together, you're
It
right.
really does.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think the focus, and the reason I think it was appropriate, we had Bob on and we're talking about the PAC, and although that's now a separate entity from the town, our focus was really on things that we're supporting from an economic development perspective. And so people, as they think about that, sometimes they don't understand that there's a lot of moving parts to that. So the budget supported a lot of the initiatives for the bike paths and keeping those in good shape and
A large capital item in there for those.
Yes,
It is.
and maintaining those
And the open space maintenance and
The buying the final piece of
the
Ethel
final
Walker.
piece of Ethel Walker.
Right, yeah, that's all been passed
Right.
on, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of assets that we have, and I think what makes the town so great and very uniquely great is that it's not any of those things just by themselves, but it's the combination of those things. And so as we struggle to make some of these decisions, we want to keep moving all those things forward, but it's definitely a challenge to do that. And,
Right. And I got to give you a plug, Nancy. I mean, you came up with the Economic Development Task Force, which is, to work in conjunction with the second phase of the marketing study and to save the town money.
yes,
And it's kind of an interesting concept because we needed to spend a little bit of money on it to save the town money.
right.
And you've had a number of successful meetings. What I understand, you've got a great group of folks that have volunteered their time
Very-
yet again.
Very dynamic group. They really
So,
are.
Much like what
Yeah.
Bob experienced with the PAC board and all these folks willing to give their skill set, I think you found the same type of folks to work with. So,
Absolutely.
and I mean, you guys are having meetings that would cost us $10,000 with consultants, and that's the intelligence we have in this town from a volunteer standpoint.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Our third meeting was last night, and as we were talking about, we're really talking about the core idea that came out of that first phase of the marketing study, and talking about all of the assets that we have and how we leverage those, and what makes us unique as a community. And some of the things that came out of the marketing study were, okay, we're part of the Knowledge Corridor. Well, there's 80 communities that are part of the Knowledge Corridor. So how does that make us unique
Right, how
as
do
a
we
town?
differentiate ourselves?
We are funding of our schools, again, not part of our budget, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining those schools. And a lot of communities around us, the qualities of their schools are getting better. So we still have to keep
Right.
that in mind as we fund and support that as an asset. And anyway, the resounding thing that came out from the group was these things are all things we can leverage, but the lead out of this sort of list is our quality of life
Right.
in our community. And it's
I think,
made up
yeah.
of
One of those things, just to follow up on the PAC conversation that I learned from this process was that, we can be flexible in our organizations. They became a private organization, which gives them flexibility for fundraising and other organizational, activities. And we did that,
Right.
by using town volunteers and other groups to do some of the work of the town. We've been able to leverage that knowledge into
Really
a
have.
lot of benefit
Right.
for our town. And, I think it's a credit to everybody who worked on the budget. that we can
It's
do
a
that.
huge credit to look at these people and see the people that, whether it's on the PAC board
Right.
or the different commissions and all the different groups, or the new economic development group, the talent that
Right.
we have within this town, and the things that make it special, whether it's, nearly a third of the town of Simsbury land is now open space.
Right.
Well, now we've got to
It's a
work at
staggering
maintaining. That's
statistic.
huge.
It is.
It is.
And
Staggering
Performing
statistic.
Arts Center
But
is
now we're going to have
just-
to be flexible in how we take care of that.
Yeah.
Now
And-
we're going
and
to
how
have
do
to
we
come up
fund
with
that?
new solutions for
Yeah.
how do we take care of the land that now we're the stewards of. So
Exactly.
And we'd be remiss in the interest of giving folks plugs. The Board of Ed's budget is truly historic, and I don't
It
think
is.
folks
Oh, yeah.
appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
1.05% has never
Yeah.
happened.
right.
It may never happen again. I hope
It
it
may
does as a taxpayer, but
But-
it's historic, and the hard work that those folks put in, and the way they were able to, I think, maintain and continue to improve the quality of education
Right.
while absorbing all the unfunded mandates from the state
right.
Right.
and from Common Core and all these things that we can't control locally, and we still have
Right.
to pay for whether we like them or not.
Yeah.
And I don't think folks truly appreciate how much work those folks did to make
And
that
it's
1.05
so
happen.
difficult to put their mission of taking care of the kids and their
Right.
education first, when all you're seeing is those big dollar signs, and it's hard for people to understand,
Right.
just how many dollars that takes.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that our volunteers on the Board of Ed have done
They
a
really
wonderful
did.
job
Yeah.
doing that.
And they were really our partners. I mean, when
Yeah.
we ran into a problem of having to cut a police officer that we truly were concerned about affording within our budget, they worked with us.
They
Right.
did.
Absorbed
they
some
did.
of that
Fund that
cost,
resource.
Sure.
and
Right.
to me, that speaks volumes.
It
Right.
does.
Of
So
the
split
cooperative.
funding the school resource officers is
Yes.
what we're talking about. So they worked with us to do that. They did it last year on the second one we added. And then we had one all along, but it was fully funded by the town side of the budget. And
Right.
now we're splitting both of those, and that was a huge help as well. So, and I think the other thing that people don't realize, and as we're talking about really trying to spend the least amount that we can, that the state doesn't allow the Board of Education to spend actually below what they spend the year prior. So you
Yeah,
can't,
and you
there's-
cut your ECS funding. It's very
Yes.
complicated how
Yes.
it works.
So there's a
So
lot
it's-
of
I was
controls
amazed.
and things that are out of our control that,
Right.
that play into this when we work through it. So,
So the final plug, right?
yeah,
The vote, please participate
Go
in the
out and vote.
referendum. There's hundreds of people that worked really hard, and it's important. We only see 8, 9, 10% turnout if we're lucky. I know it's a good budget, but tell us it's a good budget by going out and voting
And
for
voting
it.
for the
May
budget.
6th, polls open at 6 a.m.
Henry
Open
James.
till 8. Henry James.
yep,
All, where regardless of where you normally vote, everybody goes to Henry
Yep.
James for the
One
referendum.
polling site.
right.
Please
Make
stop
yourself a
in.
big note. Don't forget, so you can get there. I know everybody gets busy in their routine, and end of the day, they're I forgot to get out there,
didn't
but it's
make
very important because you're
it
right.
is.
It's the participation from our residents, and we've talked about this before. Even when folks don't come to our meetings, they're emailing us or they're contacting us, and what they tell us really helps us. And
Helps
so, we hear from them door to door and doing different things during campaign. But when it comes time for budget, we need that continued participation
Please.
from the community. So,
And,
Right.
and it's not just the budget, there's also referendum questions that have significant impact on different pieces of the capital projects and
Right.
things
Absolutely.
that, everything from the sewer plant, some of their projects that they self-fund, they still have to go on there.
Right.
yeah.
And
So
get
just
those
a note to
questions
folks to
answered.
please go online to the town website, learn more about what you will be voting on for the referendum, and get there on to Henry James on May 6th. And one last thing I just wanted to mention, and we're coming to a close in April, Autism Awareness Month, and I just want to thank Shannon Nall for coming before the Board of Selectmen and
Right.
keeping us informed on everything she's got going on, and her work with Autism Speaks. And I wanted to also congratulate her that she had been acknowledged by Parent Magazine with her well-served tennis
Right.
group. And
Which is great.
so spring is here.
Yes.
We're excited.
Yay.
So please get out and vote. Thank you for joining us again, and thank you to SCTV for continuing to bring community conversations to the residents of Simsbury. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.